Thank you all for coming. You know, having my second daughter, Josephine, which is not her real name, has transformed me in a revolutionary way. As a result, I have a message that I feel compelled to share. I'm hoping I have time at the end if anyone has any questions. Most of you know me, but if you want to ask me afterwards, that's fine too. What I can say, what most people can say in 10 words, I can say in 1,000. So I am reading. Thank you so much to my editor, Gerda Saunders. You've helped me to carve this book into something I love. And if it never gets past my coffee table, it will be a raging success. As always, thank you, Silas. Be an organ donor. Shameless plug here, organ donation. It really changes lives. I've selected passages that might give you something to take home. It's not an effort of stroking my ego, although it kind of can be, but the ones I selected are, really wanted to give you a take-home message. So in the effort of time, I won't really set them up very much, so if you want to know what happens before and after, buy the book when it comes out, right? I'm going to begin at the beginning where this story starts, first page, which is always good. The call came on our 11th wedding anniversary. It was 6 days after Josie's second birthday. She had been in the hospital at that point for 82 days. On the phone was the nurse practitioner from the transplant team at the hospital. "Good morning," she said. It was more of a statement than a greeting. "Is it?" I asked. They had a heart for Josie. An hour later, Eric and I were driving to the hospital to hold our baby for the last time before the doors of the OR shut us out once again. I could not fathom what was about to take place. I was in shock. My mom had come over to take care of Macy, who was still asleep. She would join us later to spend some time with her little sissy. Right now, I needed time alone with my baby, to say goodbye and thank you to her warrior heart. From my place in the passenger seat, I felt like an extra in someone else's movie. I passed the time bargaining with the universe. Eric, looking as pale as I felt, sat next to me, driving with his own unspoken thoughts. Outside, winter was coming. Would there ever be another spring? It is now 9 months after that fateful call, almost 3 years since I became pregnant with the child that would change my heart forever. As I had so frequently over the last 2.5 years, I sent out an update to our family and chosen family. This connection over the wires had nurtured our spirits through a small lifetime of challenge. This is what it read. Family update, Wednesday, July 16, 2014. In this moment, this peace, below this big sky and a blanket of stars, I find myself reflecting on happiness. Today, I sit with my 2 girls, one of them who learned sacrifice at a very tender age, one who has been tethered to cords like a marionette for a year out of her 2.5 years of life. Today, my girls ran free. Big sister realized her dream of riding a horse in a field of wildflowers. She was so beautiful, so brave, glowing with delight. Monday, I cried on an ATV. I had climbed on the back of my father-in-law's Razor with Josie, and there we were in Montana, surrounded by beauty, and I was overwhelmed with the most powerful of feelings, normal. Josephine was suddenly having a childhood. What I am most grateful for in this moment, a moment like this, when I have reached the tip-top peak of the happiest a hilly gets, on a horse with a Yellowstone backdrop, is the hard times. The pain, the tears, the gut-wrenching grief, the ever-so-hard lesson of not getting what I wanted in life. It is the contrast, the lemon, that makes tonight so sweet. So fitting that today, on a porch in Montana, I finished writing a book titled Love Lemons. What a day, what a life, so gorgeous, every single bit of it. Okay, this next piece, some of you know I have a pretty complicated brain disease, and when I come under stress, I stop sleeping, so that's the information you need to know. With both girls, it caused sleep deprivation psychosis, and I was hospitalized for it. Luckily for me, my doctor started the right medication immediately after birth, and I responded quickly. Only 4 days after Josie's arrival, I was cautiously allowed visiting rights to see my baby. In slippered feet, I shuffled my way across the bridge of the connected hospitals to my baby in the ICU. When Josie turned 7 days old, I came home. The next day, Eric and I visited our baby, who the doctor had assured us only the day before, quote, would be home in a couple of weeks, because the intervention had been so successful. We walked into her bed space that morning after my release to the dismay of a very pregnant ICU nurse with bad news all over her face. She immediately paged the cardiologist on service, who explained, while the nurse cried, that Josephine's echo had changed for the worse, practically overnight. She would require open heart surgery the next morning, first case. In followed a barrage of doctors preparing us for our first tour of duty. There were diagrams of hearts drawn in ominous red dry erase marker. As the next day's battle plan was outlined for us, we spoke to Josephine's prospective surgeon. We talked with an anesthesiologist. We even had a doctor approach us with an experimental study he wanted to, quote, offer us. We sent him away, horrified by the thought of our little 5-pound preemie being treated like a guinea pig. In retrospect, I believe that if I had had the time to consider it, I might have enrolled her in the study. The doctor, a kindly, timid, brilliant mole, later apologized for the timing of the offer. We returned home shell-shocked, both falling apart at the seams. I was having a hard time hanging on to the shreds of my newly returned sanity. Eric disappeared into the basement for something, and then shortly ran up to tell me it had flooded. It was a casualty of the bathroom construction that had ended only weeks before. Apparently a pipe had burst, spraying all over our belongings in storage, including a dollhouse, one of my most treasured gifts from my late father. As Eric dragged out pieces of the 4-foot-tall dollhouse from the basement, I had time to be grateful that Macy was staying with her Mimi, which spared her from being a witness to her mother officially losing it. The dollhouse was a work of art, representative of hundreds upon hundreds, spent by my recently departed father gluing countless tiny pieces of wood together. As Eric placed the soggy remnants of splintered wood on the lawn, my knees buckled, unable to support my grief. It was as if I had lost my father all over again, almost a year after his death. It was the lemon juice poured on the countless emotional paper cuts I had acquired over the last few months. My husband watched helplessly as the sanity-chewing moth returned. Luckily, his stay was short and only left me with frayed holes, the greater part of my delicate gossamer sanity still intact. What Eric and I did not know amidst the ruins of the dollhouse was that this was as good as it's going to get for a very long time. Thank you for coming. Okay, next part. Most people's reaction when they learn about Josephine and her heart condition is one of pity. I'm so sorry is what I get a lot. Admittedly, early on in this journey, I had a lot of grief. All I wanted was a healthy baby. Now, 18 months later, I can honestly say I'm grateful for Josephine's heart just the way it is. Although her heart defect will never summarize who she is, it is an essential thread in the intricately woven story of her life. It would be wrong to take away something that has been such a gift to be removed from her. I can't wait to hear her story. Yes, it's been hard for all of us, but the majority of it has been so good. For Josie, it has shown her indomitable spirit, her ability to smile in the worst of health, her good nature, and gentle but strong temperament. Macy has learned the valuable lesson of compassion and sacrifice. It has refined us, brought us closer in our connection with the perfect plan. Hundreds of people have poured love and prayers and peace into our family. I have met wonderful heart mommies who I know will be friends for life. When I considered my own severe health problems, I was mystified that the universe figured I could handle all of this. But I am an awesome heart mom. I have a great ability to understand and assimilate medical knowledge, a comfort with the hospital environment, and I am not intimidated in the least by medical professionals, which a lot of people in this room will tell I am the best advocate for Josephine, and she is the biggest gift to me for which I could ever hope. She is such a happy baby, laughing and playing, even at her sickest. She is a magical being filled with a heavenly spirit, and I am not the only one to see it. When people, quote, do me a favor by going up to spend time with her at the hospital, I am frequently delighted to be asked if they can go again. I have a friend who was driven away from her family on Christmas Eve by an intense desire to hold my baby. Josephine is magnetic. I enjoy simple moments with her that are exquisitely beautiful and that many parents of healthy children often take for granted. How many parents have done a victory dance when their baby drinks a teaspoon from a bottle or takes a bath without oxygen? How many parents have rocked their child for what they thought could be the last time over and over again? It makes every moment in the rocking chair after that a gift. I feel so honored to be trusted to be her caretaker. I know I have always done my best to take care of this precious being. This is why I know that no matter what happens in Boston, I will have no regrets. She had 2 open heart surgeries at primaries. She qualified for a very rare surgery in Boston, only the 29th to get it. And we went to Boston in May of 2013. We lived there for 2.5 months while she got her 3rd surgery. This post is dedicated to, this entry is dedicated to Amanda Hinckley. I don't know if she's here, but who apparently uses Posolution in a sentence daily. Okay, after Eric and I got Josie home from the hospital at 6 months old, we were both destroyed. Our first 2 tours of duty had been a nightmare. 2 surgeries and seemingly endless complications later, we took our baby home for the first time 6 months after her birth. We had emerged shattered and heartbroken from the battle. I, being a bit more resilient and having been equipped with the merit badge in surviving medical issues and a much higher emotional pain tolerance in general, was faring much better than Eric. It doesn't hurt that my memory is so poor. Perhaps, though, he was just in less denial. He would not go anywhere with me, did not want to be in a position to answer questions about Josephine. He became even more of an introvert than his normal artistic self. I make social butterflies look like tattered little moths. My need for social sometimes threatens to outweigh my need for breathe, and Eric's isolation threatened to do me in just when I needed to be around people most. He had spent a couple of months trying many things: exercise, meditation, painting. Finally, at point blank, I told him he needed help. I dialed our social worker at the hospital and asked if she knew any therapists that specialized in families with grief due to critical illness. I found a highly recommended therapist that would take our insurance and gently pushed Eric out the door to her office. A thin, blonde, unflappable, dramatically calm woman told him that if he wanted to work with her, he needed to learn about the work. She had him buy a book by Byron Katie before his next session. Eric is what I call a seeker. He is always looking for the higher truth and discovering something new to help him on his journey to discover the truth of everything. I have learned over the years to just nod and smile. For most of our marriage, he was the philosopher, I was ignorantly blissful, and I preferred it that way. I had no desire for self-inquiry, no desire to go below the neck into my heart. That is, until Josephine came along. So when Eric started talking about Byron Katie, I had echoes of Eckhart Tolle, Ram Dass, Thich Nhat Hanh, Wayne Dyer reverberate distastefully in my mind. All these teachers I see now as enlightened beings, wonderful humans gifted with the ability of seeing the simple truth. But in October of 2012, when Eric first discovered Byron Katie, I saw people who followed, talked about, or bought into this group as a bunch of squishy, crystal-worshipping hippies who had nothing better to do than sit around contemplating the universe. But late at night, after the girls were asleep, Eric would read bits to me from this book. At first my mind was closed, but little by little I heard truth. And more than that, I saw a transformation in my husband that was remarkable. A confidence, a spark that was even more sparkly than his pre-Josephine self had emerged. Like the dull brown praying mantis, molting, shedding his skin, glowing lime green, fresh and quietly elegant. I started reading the book undercover, sometimes literally, and when he caught me, he raised an eyebrow at my unusual interest. I knew that Josie would at least have one more heart surgery in her lifetime. The two of us set a goal together, to get to a place where we could experience her new surgery in a revolutionarily positive light. Not just to survive the war, tattered, beaten, and exhausted, but to, dare I say it, enjoy it. To thrive, not just survive. Byron Katie gave me hope that it could be done. In November of 2012, I too started seeing Eric's Countess of Calm, and we started taking apart my false ideas about Josephine and her journey. It was amazing to me how many stories I had created in my mind and suffered from that simply were not true. We paid $12 for that book, and it was worth $12,000. It transformed my life in the most remarkably breathtaking way. Byron Katie is the woman who taught me to love lemons. I would always recommend it to anyone who ever suffers. It is work, yes, but it is lasting. And it gave me hope that life would not always be terrifying and painful. One night, while discussing Josie's next heart surgery, long before we ever knew about the existence of the biventricular conversion in Boston, Eric and I were discussing the journey. We were determined to have a more positive outlook, a better experience. We did not have a choice whether or not Josie had a third surgery. We did have a choice in how we saw it. We need a positive revolution, said Eric that night. A posolution, I exclaimed, excited at the prospect of a new way to see things. Plus, I am a sucker for made-up words. I squealed and mentally added another Hillyism to my vocabulary. And that's when posolution was invented. It's simple. We take anything fearful, stressful, sad, etc., and we find at least 3 positive things about it. For instance, my baby is on a ventilator is normally scary, shocking, and unsettling. Using posolution, I chose to see a machine, an orchestra of machinery that is helping her breathe, a miraculous invention of modern medicine that is letting her little body recover. Just the fact that she is on a ventilator means she survived another surgery. Eric and I hatched a battle plan. If I get negative in my thinking, Eric will say posolution, and vice versa. I choose to bring optimism and love to my baby's bedside. Attitude is everything as we go into our 3rd tour of duty. I don't mean for this to sound like we're perfect at this drill yet. There was a massive breakdown last week where I believe I can be quoted as saying, I am not going to be positive for 1 hour. And I cried in the bathtub for most of that hour. But I gathered my mental troops from their mutiny, put on my big girl pants, and chose to march on to a happier tune. Looking back, posolution was a brilliant move for the two of us. It changed our perspective on everything radically. When one is able to find positive side to everything, nothing is 100% bad. I give credit to posolution for the fact that I am not in a padded room or drunk right now at 8 a.m. Indeed, it was a revolution for me. At first it took effort, but now I do it easily, practically without thought. I've heard it said that Eric and I have rerouted our neural pathways. Whatever the case, it was perfect in its timing. I desperately needed a positive spin on everything that was to come in the next 6 months. Okay, this next piece is the most memorable surrender I've ever, everyone comes to surrenders in their life where they just have to raise the white flag, and this was mine. It was after her 3rd open heart surgery in Boston. She did well at sea level, did not do well at elevation at all. We had 5 ICU admissions in July of 2013, and this was written before our last ICU admission. Last night, 2 days after coming home from the ICU, I put oxygen once again on my baby. I couldn't help but be sad. I'm starting to feel like we're on a long, slow train in the wrong direction. Tears stream down my face as I picture my life without this sunshine in it. There's such a bond we have, this magic little girl and me. I've poured 2 years of vigilance and care and worry and love into this angel. I've been on the brink of losing her and experienced that incredible relief that comes with having her in my arms again. I can't imagine my living room without her ski-bopping around, bouncing and singing Hot Diggy Dog, and that sweet little way she smiles when her eyes twinkle and she tilts her head. I need that feisty little girl who gets angry and throws her binky across the room, the independent little girl who comes up and hugs my legs and says, "Mama," like she is finally admitting she needs me, melting my heart. I need her like air. I just need to keep her forever. It is so hard to feel so powerless as I wait for her little heart to adjust and relax and figure this out. There's nothing I can do. In a way, the surrender is so good for me, as I just focus on watching and loving and breathing in the magic that surrounds her, and I wait, and I hope. Exquisitely, beautifully, painfully hoping. 2 days later, I surrendered. I surrendered to the exhaustion, to not knowing, to what is right and what is wrong, to what I chose, how I loved, how I tried, how I feel about it. I surrendered to the tears, to the fear, to the love, to the ache that is in my heart, to the indescribable weight I have carried for so long. I surrendered to the medications, to the doctors, to the nurses, to the ICU, to the decisions they will make. I have done all I can, and for this moment I need stillness. I have fought, and I have rekindled my spark and called upon energy I never knew I had over and over again. I've been trying for days now to access that fighting happy spirit, and it is gone. I am empty. So my baby sleeps in the ICU, and I sleep here in the arms of my healing little 4-year-old Buddha, and I wait for it to come back. I pray that tonight my bedroom becomes the Bodhi tree, and I am able to see the perfection in all of this, find the enlightenment I already have in me. I am hoping that this painful surrender becomes beautiful. Perhaps that is the only miracle I need right now. Everything else is in God's hands. That moment, it was life-changing for me. It was such a beautiful experience. To say I had a beautiful surgery in Boston Children's Hospital, saying a lot. Okay. Here's the great reveal about Josephine's heart. We did not go to Boston to make Josephine's heart happy. Josephine's heart has been and always will be happy. Her heart is not broken. No, it is perfect. It is me that is broken when I look at her and want something different than what is. Josephine would have been happy if I had taken her home and done nothing for her perfect little heart. So please, don't ever be sorry. We chose this life when we decided to fight for her, and we never expected it to be easy. We just get tired sometimes. Basically, we are still learning to discipline our tantrum-throwing little minds that are not getting what they want. Most days I get a glimpse of the truth. Life is perfect. The ICU is as beautiful as my front porch, and Josephine's heart is happy. Josephine and her heart have given us the gift of vision. My eyes are still blurry, but there are those wonderful moments when the world is clear and oh so beautiful.